How's it going, everyone? Thanks for stopping by the channel today. It's Moodog from Moodog's Frugal RCs. Today we are in the research kitchen with the 9145. This is the 120 scale vehicle that I featured on the channel recently by Xinlehong. We're going to be looking at the inner workings of this, guys. Today's going to be kind of a how-to on the teardown of this vehicle to kind of get in the inside and check out the servo, check out the motor placement and pinion, have a look at some of the other components on the inside of the shell. Now, if you remember back a couple of months back, I did a teardown on the 9125, which is the dual motor 10 scale vehicle by Xinlehong. This one's going to be on the same order. First thing we're going to need to do with this, guys, is obviously remove the body from the vehicle. And we'll go ahead and just set these parts alongside here, keep them out of the way. And we can see that we've got a bunch of small Phillips head screws that need to be removed. I think where we're going to start on this one, guys, is on the front here. We'll take the wheels off of this guy here. We'll remove the shocks, get these A-arms out of the way, and kind of go from there. Taking a quick look at this too, guys, I'll show you this right away. I wanted to show you the reason that you're going to be kind of limited to the replacements for these wheels and tires. There is a hex that's usually in these vehicles, and this scale would probably be a 7mm hex, but Xinlehong went and put a keyway on here. Now, I'm pretty sure you can get aftermarket CVDs for this in metal, and they will require you to use the standard pin through the shaft and then the hex on here. So there is where the Achilles heel comes in on the Xinlehong vehicles in the 16 scale as well as the now 20 scale. So I just want to show you that real quick. We'll go ahead and set these tires aside. Now that we got the wheels removed from the vehicle, guys, next thing we can do is go ahead and remove this front bumper. But before we do that, we can go ahead to the side here and just kind of gently remove the plug for the lighting in front. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and use a pick. And there we are. So that's out of the way now. We can remove the front bumper. And there's going to be 2 screws right here. All right, just for ease of reassembly, I went ahead and put the screws back in their holes here, and that shouldn't go anywhere if I'm careful enough. So let's go ahead and remove the wire from these little hold downs here. Just pull it free for now. So now it's out of there. There is a little bracket up on top here that actually holds the top of the battery cover onto the chassis. We'll go ahead and remove that as well. And then we can pull the assembly out of the way. And we can set this off to the side and then remove our bumper with our 2 LED lights. All right, guys, with that out of the way, we can start working on the rest of the front end here. And that is going to entail removing these 2 pins underneath here. That way we can get our lower swing arms out of the way. And I just use a small angled nose, needle nose plier. Then on top here we have 2 Phillips screws that are holding the top of the shocks to the shock mount. Again, for ease of reassembly, I take a lot of the screws and just turn them a couple threads back where they came from. That way there is no question as to what goes where. And this is fine to leave just as it is. We can go ahead and remove this top mount as well. Let's go ahead and get this top A-arm out of the way. You can see the screw, pretty standard for Xinlehong and their manufacturer. The 9125 set up pretty much the same way, although you do have some metal parts on the 9125. You have a screw here that acts as kind of a pin, so you have no threads, but then about the first 1/8 of an inch or so, there are some threads that will actually thread into the plastic. So make sure you don't lose these. These go on the top. And now we have our steering links on either side here. There are 2 screws on the bottom here, guys. There is a tool that separates these links from the ball mounts on here, but I don't have one handy. So we're going to go ahead and just remove these screws. And very, very gently pry up on this, and you can move that out of place. And we can set this off to the side. And again, with our hardware, I like to put it back where it came from when I can. And that should be good. Same thing with the other side. All right, once we've got that disassembled, the next thing we're going to do is remove our shock tower and body post. It's all kind of going to be in one piece. I've spoken about this a couple times before and mentioned I like to do things in sub-assemblies. It just makes it that much easier to reassemble if all you're doing is going inside the shell to replace a part or something like that. So go ahead and remove these 2 screws up in front here. And then this whole assembly will come off. All right, now we can start working on the back side of this. I wanted to show you real quick here, though. This is what the kind of steering assemblies look like. You have your CVD here, which is plastic. You have plastic pins in here, so there are no metal pins, I don't believe. These are... yeah, those feel like they're plastic. So we have our plastic CVDs here. We have ball bearings for the hub receivers here on the inners, and everything else on here being plastic. Now, easy enough to get this apart. You can see all these ball junctions here come apart nice and easy. If you take your time, you don't need the tool to do this. You can just remove these screws and gently pry up on these, and they should pop free pretty easily. But we'll go ahead and set these off to the side. First thing we're going to do again is remove our rear bumper, so that will give us access to the pins to remove the lower A-arms. Same as in the front, we have our pins sticking out here a little bit so we can grab them with our needle nose. Now, the rears, I mentioned in one of the videos that these were also CVDs. Evidently, these are dog bones, so I apologize for the misspeak there. Now, these are obviously plastic, and the longevity of these is in question, but so far, so good. Next step is going to be removing these top pins here to free the top A-arms, and also removing the shocks from the shock tower itself. And let's go ahead and do that next. We are looking at, again, plastic outdrives on the ends of the dog bones here. I don't know quite yet if there are going to be upgrades available for this. I would assume there is as the popularity of this vehicle grows. Now you can see we have a couple of different lengths here, guys. I'll show you real quick. All right, that's pretty much it. Now we've got all 8 screws out of here. It doesn't look like it's going to be that difficult to separate these 2 halves. So let's go ahead and just start on one end. There we go. Pretty simple. Just basically pry up from one end, and then you're going to go ahead and lay this over. And you can see there's a notch right here in the top part of the shell for the power to the ESC wires to go through, and then we have a small hole up and back here for the antenna. Pretty easy, pretty simple. Now taking a look at the inside of the vehicle here, guys, we can see our motor, our ESC. We have our 180 size motor here along with our pinion gear, and our spur gear is right next to that. And it does appear, and I will double check this right now. Okay, that's nylon. It's definitely a nylon gear. But you can see all parts are replaceable on this unit. Pretty modular, pretty easy to get at. We're going to go ahead and remove these differentials, making note of the direction that they're facing. When I say making note of directions that they're facing, you want to make sure that your planetary gear, the gear right here, is meshing with the gear at the end of the drive shaft the same direction. I've had guys complain to me after they watched my videos, you didn't show me this, you didn't do this, you did something wrong. And I put my vehicle together and it was kind of fighting itself. You turn the thing on, you start to go, and wheels are going the same direction or not the same direction. And it's just a big mess. You got to take it all apart again and redo it. So making note that the front, this is the front of the unit because we have our servo and our steering linkage right here, our steering rack here. So you want to make sure that the differential is facing this way against the gear. So let's go ahead and remove this front differential real quick here, and we can do a quick inspection on this. You can see this one is serviceable. You do have some screws on here, 1, 2, and 3. We're not going to be taking it apart in this video, I don't think, but you can see there are little retainers for the bearing cages on here. There's like little lips on the end here. These would snap over, so you don't run the risk so much of losing your bearings. But this is going to be for the front. Next thing we're going to do is remove our steering linkage from the servo saver right here. And basically we're just going to take a Phillips screwdriver and remove this screw here, and that should get us to where we need to be. Using care not to lose any of this stuff. This is spring loaded here. We want to kind of set that off to the side, and we can take the whole assembly and lift it straight up off of the pins, and there you have it. So what I'll end up doing with this, guys, is putting this back into the end of the servo itself to kind of keep everything in place. The next thing we're going to do, guys, is we're going to remove our servo itself. There is a 5-wire cable going back to the ESC. We're going to get our pick and gently pry up on this connector here. And we are out. Then we can take our servo and remove it. Now this is nothing more than just pressure fit in there. It's held down by the pressure of the top of the clamshell. There are no brackets. There is no retaining bracket or any kind of screws that hold this down. And we can take these pins out of the bottom of the chassis. 1. And we'll get our and 2. You notice I'm trying to set everything down in a general vicinity of the part that it came out of, so there isn't a whole lot of confusion when I'm going to reassemble this. So when we turn the vehicle around looking at it from the rear to the front, we can see that we have our gear facing the same direction as the front was. So we'll go ahead and remove that. At this point, we can remove our cable coming from our motor just by gently pulling it up by hand. Okay, and we can remove our motor. The motor just is just slid in to the slot on the bottom of the chassis here, and you can see that this one does say Xinlehong on the bottom, XLH, and then the model number there. It's a 180 size. We'll go ahead and remove the two screws up in front here off this mount. And from there we can remove our motor mount. Being careful at this point, guys, not to lose these tiny little mounting screws here, and these are really small. You guys can see that or not, they're super tiny. But we can inspect the motor and take a look, and you can kind of see on the back here, it is XLH Xinlehong FK180-3044. If you guys burn out a motor, you can make a note of that. All right, guys, next thing we're going to do is go ahead and remove the drive shaft, which is happily metal. So we'll go ahead and pull that out. That's just from one end to the next. Just kind of lift it out. And we can see that we have bearings on the inside of the spur, on the outside of the spur. Our little orbital gear, or whatever gear you want to call that on there. I think it's an asteroid gear. I'm not quite sure. And if I'm misspeaking this, guys, I really don't know the terminology. I just know what these gears do. But that one is made of nylon, and the one on this end is well nylon. But you do see that it is a metal drive shaft along with metal ball bearings on both ends. All right, guys, the only thing we have left to remove now is going to be the ESC receiver. There is one screw, copper-colored screw right in the center here. We'll go ahead and remove that. This should just basically lift out like this. So from back to front, you can see, because we have our tap for our light system, our power button, and our LED up in front here, you want to use some care when removing this. So take your little awl or your pick and go behind and just kind of lift, and then just move it out of place. And that's it. That's the whole disassembly of the 9145 by Xinlehong. Now, if you need to take pictures of the stuff while you're doing it, take pictures of it while you're doing it. Pretty easy to do, guys. Take your time doing it. Shouldn't be a problem for you. If you have any questions, comments, put them down in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you haven't already subscribed and you like these types of videos, guys, go ahead and hit that subscribe button along with that notification bell so you're getting all my uploads as soon as I upload them to YouTube. We'll see you all in the next one. God bless the Republic.